We're going to use Canva Pro to create an animated book cover. This is great for social media, for placement on your website, and for general book promotion. To get started, I've selected book covers out of the templates within Canva, and we're going to use Castle to get started. I chose this template for two reasons. One is genre-based, so as we go through the tutorial, we can talk a little bit about how the motion and the speed of that motion should be related to the genre or to the type of book that you're creating this animation for. Also, this particular template has a number of things going on with it. We have some little elements here, special effects elements that we can work with, and we have a title going across 3 different text boxes and the author name up here, as well as this beautiful background. So we are going to pull this apart a little bit, talk about animating the entire composition as a whole and what that looks like, as well as how to go and just animate individual elements so that you're creating, a visual interest. Before we get into too much more detail, I do want to address something that I've noticed in a lot of the Canva book cover templates is the author name is very small. Keep in mind whether this is going to be, end up on social media or at a point of sale online, it's going to be a thumbnail. And that's how a lot of book buyers are going to encounter it for the first time. So you want to make sure that people can see your name. So before we even start animating, we're going to make a few little tweaks here. We're going to start by making this nice and big. You want it to be able to go across one line if possible. Always make sure that the text and the color of your text has a good contrast with your background. So I'm going to make this very, very small. You can see even as it gets smaller, you can still read the author's name as well as the title of the book very easily. You can imagine this on an Amazon page or a Barnes & Noble page. As a thumbnail along other books, you want it to be able to pop out and have that resonance. So we're going to go ahead and bring this back out. You'll notice up in the top left-hand corner, we now have this animate button. So we're going to open that menu. Canva already has some animations built in different combinations. And all you have to do is take your cursor over each one to see how it affects the elements on the page. And you'll also notice it's not moving that background image using these elements, just the text and the effects that are on top. If you see something in there that you like and it's working with your book, with your genre, you can go ahead and apply that, export it, and you're ready to go. But we're going to dive in a little deeper so that you can learn how to customize all of these different pieces and what to consider when you're customizing it for the type of element and the type of motion. So I am going to come in here and select Photo Zoom. So that's going to apply only to the background. And you can see the other pieces are kind of going along with it, but we're going to animate those separately and start pulling that apart. So I like the zoom. And while we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and change the timing of our overall animation to 10 seconds. There are 2 reasons for 10 seconds. People are distracted. Where they see this playing out, it's going to be on your website. It's going to be in a social media feed. There are a lot of distractions. You want to be able to have them see as much of your animated movie as possible, as quickly as possible as they're scrolling through social media or through their stories. Once you get through the animation, most of these will default to about 5 seconds, but it's fine to let it sit and hold for another 3 to 5 seconds after that. So that everything has it's played through the animation, and I'm going to hit here so you can see it full. It comes through and comes to a stop. So the viewer can see everything as a composite before it begins to loop and play over again. We have our background motion. We have 10 seconds on our timing. Now we're going to start pulling apart some of these elements. Probably the easiest place to start when you're looking at your elements would be the title of the book. So as I mentioned before, we are looking at 3 different text boxes. You can very easily come in and add an animation to each one individually, but that can get very jarring to the eye and feel a little chaotic. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Shift key and select each of these. And up here, if you don't see it, just use the little menu drop down and click Group. Now I have those three text boxes all selected as a single group. So if I apply an effect, it'll go to all of them equally. And we're going to start playing around with some animations for this to see what we like. And again, all you have to do is cursor over the different effects to get an idea of what they look like. You know, pop, probably not so much. Scrapbook, probably not so much because it's a little jarring to go with a dark fantasy. We have rise, and with this particular effect, we get a few more choices. We can have it animate at the open or on the exit where it's already there and then it'll just disappear. Or you can set to both, which, you know, might work fine for some videos. For this one, we are going to have it be just on the enter. We're going to have it rise up. You can also change your direction, so it can come down as well. There we go. So, and we're going to adjust that speed. So you can make it really nice and slow and gentle so it's not very jarring. It's almost the same speed as the image. And often when you're working with the different elements, it's hard to sort of see how it's coming together and what that whole emotional visual impact is. Come up and hit the little play button on the top menu, and it will isolate it so you can get a feel for how it's coming together. And just let it play through. You can scrub it through to see the timing of the different elements coming in. And so that's starting to come together. And really, this has only taken a few minutes to animate the background, create a group out of the title lines, and animate those as well. We also have two nice effects that are in here. We have this nice little swoosh, and then we have this adorable little light back here. I kind of like the way the light appears towards the end on its own. It's pulling the visuals down nicely, the eye down to the title. But let's come in and work with this swoosh just a little bit. So we've selected this element. We got some nice motion going in. Let's click animate and see what we want to do with that. If this was a program like After Effects or something that had motion keyframes that we could manipulate, we could actually make it fly in like a particle stream and have that magical feel. We don't have that ability within Canva, but you can try different effects to see what that feels like. And that white almost has that feel to it. So let's apply that. Go and look at our isolated section there, and that's pretty good. You also get to choose if you want it to animate on the open, the close, or both. We're going to stay on the open. I'm going to slow it down ever so slightly. And so it's got a nice smooth motion with it. The tip of the swoosh is hitting the castle window right as it's settling into place. So that feels pretty natural. Our highlight comes in at the bottom very easily. Now let's draw some attention to the author's name. You don't want to neglect that. Everything should work in conjunction with each other. So with animating type, you get a couple of different options that you don't get when you're looking at a vector image like the swoosh that we just animated. So with writing, it's kind of neat to have this cool typewriter feature, and it allows you to adjust how you want it to animate as well as the speed. And you can choose to have it come in as a word at a time or as a character at a time. So let's play with the speed a little bit on that. And then we're going to take a look, because we've animated our title, our background, or the swoosh, and the author name, which we've made nice and big so it shows up easily. Let's isolate it and take a look at how it's coming together. And that's actually pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. From this screen, I could go ahead and click download and get an MP4 file that's compatible with social media sites as well as YouTube. Or if you need to get the embed code for putting this on your website, come up and click share and click more, and you'll see the embed right here. And so you would just come in and copy this code, the HTML, and you can put that into your website. Or if you need a smart link, if that's a plugin that you're using, you can grab that here as well. So how much is too much when you're animating? You could get pretty crazy with this. It's a natural tendency if you're new to editing and to motion graphics to want to just throw everything in there and make everything just, fly all over the screen. But that can be very nauseating for your audience. It's the more subtle you are, the more coordinated you are, the bigger the impact and the more polished it's going to come across. So even with this, we have motion going in a lot of places, but nothing is jarring. It feels like it should be a dark fantasy or a fantasy novel. And if these are natural motions that the swoosh feels like a swoosh. It doesn't feel like it's just popping in or flying in. And don't feel as though you have to animate absolutely everything on your cover. We could just as easily have come in here and left the name and the title static and animated nothing but the background and the swoosh and still have a really cool effect of looking through a window at this other world, staring past the text into this other world. There is a psychological impact that comes with motion. There's also an artistic impact as well. When I talk about this little highlight down here under the title, this swoosh is pulling the eye up to the castle, and the turrets of the castle pull your eye up to the name of the author. If looking at this for the first time, your eye lands on the author name, it's naturally getting pulled down to the title. And the little highlight in the animation is sort of emphasizing that again. So this composition is pulling your eye up as well as pulling it down. The motion is inviting you deeper into the composition overall. So that is how you can animate your book cover using Canva. Think about how you can use this even beyond that for your social media, for your book promotion or promoting your blog.